What's up, you mongoloids? Do you remember the honeymoon phase? Do you remember when you woke up every day and you were excited to do your Anki reps and you were excited to learn a new language and become fluent in Japanese, and you were just there was this magic about someday being able to speak to a Japanese person in Japanese, and you were so excited that you had this immense motivation every day driving you to study hard, to get your Anki reps done, to do your immersion. And then a month passes, 2 months, 3 months passes. And now you're waking up every day, you're snoozing your alarm clock, and you're like, I'll do my Anki reps later. I need to drink some coffee first. Drink tea, it's better. And everything feels like it's lost its magic. It feels like that motivation that you had has gone into a different dimension, and now it's just you feel dread because you haven't yesterday you didn't do your Anki reps, and now they're piling up. You feel like, oh man, I really have to do them, and then the guilt leads to more procrastination, and then your Anki cards just keep piling up, and you're like, man, I've got to do 100, 200 reviews to catch up with my Anki. And then it's like a month later and you've completely forgotten that, about your Anki cards, and you've just basically given up on learning Japanese. And this is the experience, I think, for a lot of people. They go through these phases of, man, I really want to learn this language. And then they go really hard. And then they, over time, naturally your motivation will diminish in anything that you do. Actually, there's a word for this in Japanese. It's called mikabozu, a 3-day monk. And you don't want to be a 3-day monk. So why is it that you can't stay consistent with Japanese? Well, your problem is distraction and overstimulation. Um, in this modern day and age, everyone has Instagram on their phones, everyone has TikTok, everyone especially has YouTube if you're watching this. And YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels, TikTok. I'm sure you've heard this before, but the short form content, um, every time you look at a novel video, you're creating a dopamine spike in your brain. And this isn't necessarily a bad thing. A lot of people talk about dopamine detox, and which is a misnomer because dopamine isn't a drug. It's a natural neurotransmitter that's created in your brain. Not the, anyway, not to get into the nitty gritty details, but it's not, dopamine is a good thing, but if you're creating these short dopamine spikes, what you're doing is you're training yourself to not be able to concentrate on things for a long time. And you're training your brain to seek that short term stimulation. Even medium and long form content, for example, if you're the type of person that can't go to the bathroom, go to the toilet without listening to a podcast or some medium form or long term form content, a shift has happened in your brain where you need constant stimulation and you can't just sit with silence. And that's a problem because if you're trying to do anything that requires hard concentration, like learning a language, you're not getting as strong dopamine spikes from learning new things. And this makes it difficult for your brain to learn things because dopamine is an important part of the learning process, and it makes it hard for you to have motivation. to actually start things. And the truth is, if you can't go to the bathroom without being stimulated, then I personally think that's pathetic, and you need to reevaluate your life. Um, and I've been there too, and I know how pathetic it is to have to be, you know, have this in your hand just to go to the bathroom. It's frankly, it's sad. And if that's you, then I'm glad you're watching this video. So what do you do when your brain has become used to this stimulation and the novelty of Japanese has worn off? Well, the first thing that you need to do is you need to cut out the stimulation. And then the second thing that you need to do, because this is actually, it's natural that when you start a new thing, you're going to have more motivation. And at a certain point, that motivation is going to peak and it's going to valley. And what you need to set up before it peaks is you need to set up systems. And these systems, once it goes into a valley, can keep you on your path to learning a language or doing whatever it is that you want to do. So how do we set up these systems? Well, the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to want to lock your phone. And there's so many different ways that you can do this. There's apps for iOS. I think one's called Opal. You can use apps like this to block certain content. That's kind of like level one. The next level is, just a second. What I use is these kitchen locks. It's called K-Safe. I think it's like 40, 50 bucks, but basically what you do is you put whatever you want to lock in here, in this case, your phone. You set this timer. I don't know if you can see that. You set this timer to however long you want to lock it for, and then you just press this button and it'll lock it, and then even if you take the batteries out, it'll stay locked until that time is up. Now, your question is, if you lock your phone, how are you going to contact people? Isn't that dangerous? Well, first of all, don't be a bitch. You don't need... First of all, don't be a bitch. Second of all, have two phones. This is what I do. So, I have this phone, which is an Android, and I have it on parental lock from this phone, my iPhone. And so this parental, this is set up as the parent phone, and I have locks so I can't download apps. I have the apps that I need downloaded. I can contact people through Line if I need to contact people. And, you know, I can't access YouTube. But the thing is, your brain is really smart, right? Your brain will find ways to get to the dopamine. And so something that I did was I would actually use Line to access YouTube and I'm going to tell you this so that you can know ahead of time, because you will figure little things like this out. If you're addicted, basically you're an addict, and you will figure out ways to do this. So I would type in the YouTube link into a chat, and I would send it, and I would click on that link, and it would open it in the Line browser, and I would be able to use YouTube through that. So what I did to combat that is, in the parental app, I set a time limit for Line for 2 hours, so that even if I did access YouTube through Line, after that 2 hours is up, Line will lock, and then I won't be able to contact anybody, which could be a problem. So knowing that, I just don't use Line to access YouTube. Another route that you can explore with this is dumb phones. And there's a community on Reddit called Dumb Phones. And basically what it is you use old phones, like garake. And, you know, actually, not even old phones, they have newer flip phones as well. And what you do is you basically just use that instead of a normal phone. So you can text with it, you can make calls with it, if there's an emergency. And it might have like a really basic web browser, but you want to get one that you can't watch YouTube, you can't access Instagram, TikTok, things like that. And this is one route that you can go down, and actually they can be kind of cool. But the problem is, I like to use Line, and most of them you can't use Line. And as far as there's a thing called the Light Phone, which I've tried. Don't recommend it. It's really bad hardware. And then there's one called a Pumped, which I haven't tried, but I've read reviews on it. It's also not as good. So I just like to use the smartphone with the parental lock. That's what works best for me, and I think it's the best way to go. Just lock your main phone and have a cheap separate Android phone that you can lock with. I use Google Family Link, and for the parental permissions, and it works really well. If you guys want me to make a specific video about locking your phone, obviously if you have a laptop or a PC, there's going to be other things that you need to do to set up systems. So if you want me to make another separate video about that, going into more detail, then I can do that. Just let me know if you want to see a video like that. So the next thing I want to talk about is motivation. Obviously we talked about the peak and the valley of motivation that you have when you first start a language or doing anything that you want to do. But actually what happens in reality is we have a peak, we have a valley, and then we have another smaller peak, we have a valley, and it kind of keeps going like this. And so it's not like motivation peaks and then it's forever gone at some point. Actually, we can instigate these peaks, and we can kind of manage our level of motivation throughout our journey of life, if you will. And so, at the risk of sounding like some kind of motivational speaker or something, I do want to talk about how to manage your motivation. So the thing that we need to do to reignite that ember of motivation from the flame that it was when you originally started learning Japanese or whatever language that you're learning is you really need to think about your motivation the first thing you do when you wake up in the morning. And yeah, I know this is starting to sound like the secret, and I don't mean it to sound like that, but there is some truth to this. That when you first wake up, you're kind of in between brain states, and it's the best time to kickstart your motivation for the day. So you wake up and you think about, not just think about, but you want to envision the reason that you want to learn a language, or the reason that you want to do whatever it is that you want to be motivated to do. And when I say the reason, I'm talking about the real reason. I'm not talking about I want to get a job, so I want to learn Japanese because I can get a better job if I know a second language. I'm talking about, I want to learn Japanese because I want to be able to watch Steins Gate without subtitles, or I want to be able to read this manga in Japanese and understand it in the original context of the language. Or I want to get a Japanese girlfriend, I want to stop hugging my waifu body pillow, and I want to get a Japanese girlfriend or something like that. The actual motivation that makes you feel motivated to want to do whatever it is that you want to do. This is what you're going to envision in your brain, is that you're going to envision yourself actually in that situation where you accomplish that goal. And you're going to feel the feelings of how good it feels to accomplish something. And feeling that feeling will set you up to feel motivated throughout the day. And specifically motivated to start your day doing the things that you need to do instead of procrastinating and putting it off. The worst thing that you can do is to procrastinate igniting the flame. You want to do this first thing, literally the first thing you when you wake up, you're still in bed. Don't procrastinate this. When you first wake up is the best time to plant the seed. And if you forget, then that's fine. But as cortisol starts to rise in your body, you start to switch into an alpha brain state, and it's not going to work as well. And I hope that you understand that I'm talking earnestly in this video because, usually in my videos I use a lot of jokes, and I hope to continue to do that, but I want to actually talk about the things that I think about and the things that I do, and in hopes that they might help some other people, because I am, people like, I talk about Matt versus Japan a lot on my channel, and I also want to get away from that. But people like him who are just, they have this innate extra level of motivation that a lot of us don't have. I certainly don't have innately. And sure, there's some people like that, but I think there's a lot more people that struggle with motivation. And I think that those people deserve to be able to learn a language too, because I'm also one of those people. And I struggle really hard with motivation. That's why I have to be so strict about certain things. And that's why I'm passionate about these things, and I want to share them and talk about them, in hopes that it can help some people that are like me to be able to make progress, because I spent so much time doing the wrong things and not making progress that it's just such a waste of time, and I don't want, I want better for you. I don't want other people to have to do that. So at the end of the day, if you don't find a way to make yourself do the things that you need to do, you're never going to learn Japanese. You're always going to be a virgin loser. And that's just the way the world works. I'm sorry. If you think that the things that I said in this video are extreme, then that's fine. You can think that. But these are the things that if you struggle with motivation, these are the things that you need to think about honestly and consider implementing them into your life. So don't be a Mikabozu. Subscribe and like, and peace.